All right, what is up, everyone? It is the NHL Hit the Ice show presented by Osmo.com. I'm Jake Hari, joined by one of the sharpest minds in all of NHL DFS, Homer Cleese. How are you doing today, Homer Cleese?
Oh, not too bad, buddy. It's good to be back. It's been a long off season, and really excited to talk hockey again. Yeah, just really pretty pumped. How about yourself?
Yeah, wasn't too long of an off season for me, but I'm just excited to be back, play some hockey. Uh, Sick of talking about pitchers and ready to talk about some goalie tilts and such. So yeah, this will be a lot of fun. It'll be good to talk to you and kind of get to pick your brain as we go along. So I'm sure we're gonna start getting more viewers in here. I'm gonna post this in the Slack channel. Let's see here. So do you want to just talk about kind of your background in NHL DFS? I mean, I'm sure most people that are tuning into this probably know who you are and how successful of a player you are. But if you just want to talk about kind of your background.
Sure, sure. So yeah, for those who don't know me, maybe some Osmo subscribers or someone that wasn't from FanVice, I used to be I do NHL content over at fanvice.com before the merger, and so a few of you might be familiar from me doing shows with Cliffy and the other guys, and a lot of you are still in the Slack chat that we have here. So you're familiar with kind of my sort of style, my game. But I've been playing NHL DFS for about, I don't know, since 2015 or so, something like that. It's been about 3 years. And it started out pretty fishy, still kind of learning the ropes. Didn't really get the whole stacking thing, and yeah, just improving my game season by season, and to the point where I feel pretty confident in my abilities now, and things are all starting to come together now. So yeah, it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, no, you've definitely risen to the top. You're one of the guys that I studied for a long time. And then we actually, for the people that don't know, we actually met out at the live final in Toronto. And that was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
fun. And
that was a good time.
now we ended up working together. So this is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So, Chad, if you guys want to just ask general strategy questions, we figured that since it's only 4 games, we thought we'd probably just go through some overall strategy and then sort of go through each of the games after that. So I'm sure a bunch of people have questions. There's probably a lot of casual players playing. So if you have questions, just pop them in chat on YouTube or Slack, and we will get to them. But yeah,
Yeah, I've
just
certainly been getting a lot of generic questions so far this week. Teaching, want to know how to stack, wanting to learn just generally how to play DFS hockey. So a lot of people are seeing that 50K up top for that this on this short slate and looking to get into it. So that's good. Good to get more people joining.
yeah, we talked just briefly before this about that tournament, and I mean, would you suggest people play that? I mean, the payout structure looks pretty terrible, but if you're not
It,
first or last, I guess is kind of how it's going.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, it's probably
Well,
going to end up overlaying.
it's going to be, yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of overlay. It's definitely not good for your bankroll with that payout structure, but it's that top prize is really appealing, and it's hard to turn that down. So I don't know, if you have the money to spare, yeah, take a shot at it. Maybe just put one lineup in. Otherwise, give yourself a chance. But there's probably a lot better contests out there for you if you're just beginning, just learning. There's that mini max contest is perfect for it. It's only $50 or sorry, 50-cent entry, and you can enter multiple times. So you can play around with your strategy. I would definitely recommend contests like that rather than the $5 one.
Yeah, much flatter payout in the
Yeah.
mini max. Really good tournament to get started with. It was one that I was playing a lot in MLB just to try to get the feel for MME.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely would recommend that. I wouldn't want to go crazy on the $5. I mean, I'm playing the $5, so do as I say, not as I do. If you're just getting into NHL DFS, but yeah, people see the big prize pool and they just want to flock to that tournament. But there are some decent single entry and 3 max tournaments out there as well if you're just looking to throw in a lineup or two. Looking at chat here, we've got a question from Raj G. What is the ideal stack? And then kind of tying that into, is NHL similar to MLB stacking? What would you say?
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities between baseball and hockey. First of all, the variance, the short-term variance. It's probably a little bit more variance in hockey actually, because goals are so much harder to come by. So the repetitive stats, the ones you can count on, the cash game stats, the stuff you're looking for there. It's kind of like shots and blocks. That's the sort of predictable stuff. That's where you get your floors from. Goals are much harder to predict. And the one thing with goals is, you can get 2 assists on every goal. So, three players can get a point on every goal. So while goals are so hard to predict, stacking becomes really effective, because if one of the players on a line scores a goal, then the other 2 players have a good chance of getting an assist on the goal. So that's really where you get the correlation and the upside from, something like that. So in hockey, I guess what you could call the standard stack, the most common one used, is a 4-3-1 stack, where you stack one forward line with another forward line, and then you take a defenseman that plays together with them either at even strength, preferably on the power play. So that's your 4-man stack, and then you have the other forward line. That's the most common one, and that's the one that I typically use on larger slates. Smaller slates, anything really goes. But yeah, if you got anything to add to that?
For sure. No, the name of the game in NHL DFS, just similar to MLB, is stacking and correlation. I think you can be successful without doing them. I think in the long run, if you're playing, especially big field tournaments like the $5 one, you're really going to want to stack, whether it's 4-3-1, 3-3-2, which is my personal favorite, and then, or like a power play stack or something like that. And I like to play power play stacks on shorter slates like this, just to get some differentiation from the people that, like the sharp guys that roll out the 4-3-1s that are going to have really solid lineups. I think there's only, there's only a handful of people that are MMEing, I think, very well in NHL. So it's something that I'm looking to get into, and I kind of backtesting. I've been doing 3-3-2, been doing 4-3-1, and it looks pretty similar. So it kind of depends on the slate size. On a slate like tonight with 4 games, what are some of the stacks that you're kind of considering? Like not like whatever Boston won, but like how would you power play stack? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That 3-3-2 is a great idea. I mean, it's one that I like for smaller slates for sure. I tried to mix that one up, that one in as well. So usually in my crunches, I won't go 100% on one style, like one particular size of stack. Like on a smaller slate, I won't do all 4-3-1s, for example. Early on in the season, especially, I'm really big on power play stacks. So if you're not on power play, I don't know if I want to play you tonight, unless you're just a one-off, like whoever's the leftover guy at the end. Power play stacks. I do a lot of 4-man power play stack with a 3-man. It could be a forward line, an even strength forward line, or it could be another power play stack, a 3-man forward power play stack or something like that. So you can mix it up in something like that. And then the 3-3-2s, they're a little bit different as well. So just anything to kind of differentiate from the masses. Like, tonight Toronto's going to be popular. People are going to be playing their even strength lines. Something like some sort of power play correlation where you take guys from the 3 different even strength lines that play together on the power play. That's just a way of being unique. So trying to mix in as much of that as possible.
Yeah, I love that, and that's why I think tonight I'm mostly going to be running. I'm going to try to get away from the 4-3-1, just because I think that anyone that has a subscription somewhere probably knows like 4-3-1 is the standard. Even if you do just a few minutes of research, and it's great correlation. I'm not saying don't run out 4-3-1s, but just to try to get different when there's 59,000 entries you're trying to beat. Maybe trying to stay away from that in the majority of your lineups would be what I would say.
That's a great idea. It's a great call.
What stat-wise should I concentrate most on when picking position players in hockey?
Yeah, so for something like cash games, you get your floor from shots and blocks. That's kind of the consistent stuff. That's more the predictable side. You can always predict shot attempts. They're very predictable. Excuse me.
No, I
But
agree.
yeah. So and to predict, yeah, for finding shots, how do you predict shot volume? You get from shot attempts. You can be a little bit more of the advanced stats, and that's known as Corsi for Corsi against. You want to see which teams are giving up a lot of shot attempts, which ones are taking a lot of shot attempts, and obviously you want to target the better matchups in those cases. So that's kind of like the cash game stats for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to pick your brain a little bit more about predicting block shots, but
Yeah.
as far as like shot attempts, I think that is probably the most predictable thing. And it's super valuable, and you can, I don't know, I've found that that's kind of been the most predictive thing into translating into DFS points in the long run. So Corsi for, Corsi against, I mean, you can find these stats on Corsica.hockey. You can find Natural Stat Trick, one of my favorite sites. I'm sure there's other, I mean, maybe NHL Reference possibly has those. But there's just a variety of different possession metrics that you should be looking at when looking to build your NHL lineups.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on two of the bigger sites that we use, Natural Stat Trick and Corsica. That's kind of the big ones that I use for advanced stats like that. And beyond that, beyond those those are called possession numbers, what we refer to as possession numbers. The other key is so that tells you the volume of shots that are coming in, and then you also want to be able to measure the quality of shots. And those two sites have different ways of doing it. Natural Stat Trick talks about scoring chances, and then they narrow it down from generic scoring chances to high danger scoring chances. And a site like Corsica uses expected goals, which is just a measure of shot distance, shot quality, and stuff like that. So that's what you use to find quality chances, and that's kind of what really helps in determining the goal side of things, finding upside in players and that.
Just looking at the Slack chat in there. All right, we'll get to that question later. So what else do we have in chat here?
Tom Wilson got 20 games.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just saw that as well. Can't say he didn't deserve it. I mean, if that's a one-time thing. I don't know if you saw the hit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pretty bad for preseason, right? I mean,
for sure. It's kind of uncalled for.
It's just and that's just who he is. So, it's nice to see the NHL bring the hammer down on him finally after getting away with a lot of cheap stuff over the years. So, no Wilson, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov for at least the first 20. They have Brett Connolly slotting in there, I think, for tonight. I'm sure they're going to rotate around. That's kind of the feeling I got from.
Yeah. The other guy that's spent some time up there that I could see coming up is Devontae Smith-Pelly as well. So someone else to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, for sure. Do you recommend playing offensive players against your own goalie in GPPs on small slates?
I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. It's possible, but it would only ever be the min-price guys, like the cheapest ones, right? Because then otherwise it hurts your upside. If you're playing a skater, if you're playing a forward, an offensive player, you want them to get multiple goals. If you're going to win a GPP, you need them to get multiple points, right? But if you're going to play a goalie, you don't want them to allow multiple goals. You need like a shutout sort of, or either that or just a ton of volume. So only the very cheapest players would I play against my goalie, and it wouldn't be something I would actively target.
Yeah, I mean, 2-game slate, okay. I mean, there's an argument.
Yeah.
Should you even be playing 2-game slates? 3-game slate, maybe. But on tonight, like a slate like tonight, I don't think there's a need for it. There's so much value, like mispriced guys on DK. It's just not necessary. So there was another question kind of coming off of that. So is a goalie in hockey like picking a starting pitcher in the MLB? And then related to that, usually I use a correlating goalie with my stacks. So that's kind of like, that's exactly what I do. Almost always is correlate my defensemen or correlate my goalies with 1 to 4 skaters that I'm playing in that lineup, meaning taking the guys from the same team and just including the goalie in your stack. So.
Yep, that's a strategy I've used a lot myself as well. Something like tonight, maybe on a short slate, I might not just limit that. It just given this contest tonight where it's really top heavy, I might not do the same thing. But that's usually my basic strategy, is to stack the goalie with the players.
Okay. Typical stack sizes for FanDuel. I think the most common on FanDuel is probably a 4-4 with random goalie, right? Because you still can only take 4 from a team. Do you play much on FanDuel?
Not a ton. It's funny. That's where I started out, was FanDuel, back when they had the plus-minus days, and yeah. And then if you net goal would either completely sewer you or win you the tournament at the very end of the night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping to play a little bit more this year, actually, if time permitting, of course. DraftKings will be my priority, and then FanDuel if I have time.
Yeah, and they do have a nice $4 if you look into MME, $600 to put 150 in, or you can put whatever.
And it looks like it has a much better payout structure too, right?
Yeah.
20K to first, 10K to second, 5K to third. Yeah, that seems probably like the better one to do, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to jump in that after or not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the crunches go, but I like it on there because you can max the 25 cent at 150. Yeah. FanDuel does not have the same limitations on low dollar contests that DK does in terms of entries allowed.
Yeah.
Anything else in the chat that you see or in Slack? I think.
Let me take a quick look.
Okay. Otherwise, we could start to move on and just talk about each of these games. Well, actually, how much do you look at line matching? Is kind of just something that I wanted to ask you. I'm sure the audience would be interested in as well.
So that's a big part of my game, is line matching. But early in the season, probably not as much, because there's always so much turnover year to year and line to line that the data we have, I like to look at data on individual line combinations, like with or without you sort of stats. So early in the season, when these line combos are a little different, I mean, you have a lot of rookies coming in here, a lot of guys change teams. So there's only a few lines that we'll see tonight that have any sort of history together. So without a lot of data, it's not something I'm going to rely on tonight as much. But in the future, it's definitely something I'm going to be looking for as far as matchups go. A team like the Leafs, every night they're going to be a popular choice, right? And it's going to be, which line do we play? And that's really how I focus on which one I'm going to target in a good matchup.
Yeah,
is the line matching. So it's something we'll get into probably a little bit further down the road, I think, once we have more data. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it in a few of the games tonight, for sure.
Yeah, especially because the Leafs are one of the teams that did last year a hard match with Calgary. Yeah. So you kind of knew how the lines would shake out, who's going to see the most time against who, and then after that, it's kind of just a numbers game and an ownership game, of course. But yeah, so I'm excited to hear that. Line matching is the thing I spend the most time on. Well, maybe not the most time, but definitely I spend a lot of time looking into matchups once we get a few games into the season, see how coaches are matching. Because if you can get in the head of the coaches, then, as I say, it just becomes sort of a numbers game after that.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And then you see all your competition is a lot of the competition is probably looking at just generic team stats. You might see a team that's really has dominant overall numbers, but it could be one line shutting everyone down and the other lines are vulnerable, so you can still attack them, sort of deal. So it opens up more opportunities and helps you also narrow down your choices, so you're not just playing every single line as well.
So just off the top of my head, Calgary 2, the 3M line, the Backlund, Frolik, Kachuk, just an insanely good shutdown line. So when they're at home, I almost never target the line that the opposing top line, because they're just going to see them for 90% of their ice time, and really the only chance they're going to have at doing something is on the power play. And it's just stuff like that, little nuances of NHL DFS that I think there's still quite a big edge. So hopefully we can help you guys become better players as we try to become better players ourselves. Do you want to get started and go through this 4-gamer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first game up, the Habs at the Leafs, that's going to be the biggest target for sure. It's the only game with the 6 total, and the Leafs are massive favorites. we have John Tavares moving over to Toronto to the Leafs to join the Leafs, and so it's just an absolute powerhouse of a team tonight. And then the Habs lost. They lost Pacioretty. They traded him away, their captain, and Shea Weber's out for a long time now too. So they're kind of they're big time on the decline, and the Leafs are on the come up here. So looks like the Leafs are going to stomp them. To everyone's expecting them to stomp them tonight. But that's the first thing you should learn about hockey is that things don't always go according to plan, especially early in the season. Underdogs are very live at any point, but especially early in the year. Some teams with higher aspirations, they don't always show up early in the season. You know, they're just trying to round into form, figure things out. Especially teams that have a lot of changes to their line combos. Excuse me.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I think most coaches are more likely to change things up early, especially if you see a team struggling. They might just find the right combination of three guys, and all of a sudden you've got three guys that have maybe pretty poor stats over the first couple of games, but now you put them together and they just work together, and you see it in the numbers right away after that. So, there's definitely going to be some changes. I mean, if you're MMEing tonight, there's no reason to cross off any of these teams. You'll see Montreal being a huge underdog, but that doesn't mean that Carey Price couldn't stand on his head and have a GPP winning performance. So let's get into that game actually right now. Let's go Montreal, Toronto, 6 total as you mentioned, 2.4 for the Canadiens, 3.6 for the Leafs. Carey Price in net for Montreal, Frederik Andersen for Toronto. I guess we should start with the Leafs here, and they've got 3 lines that are at least very much in play. I'm assuming Tavares, Marner, Hyman is going to see the highest ownership of the 3. But what's your feel on this, and how do you sort of see the line matching shaking out?
Yeah, well, I expect Calgary's line to be the shutdown line, right? So they would normally play against the other team's top lines. I'm interested to see what they do with which one becomes the second and third matchup, whether it's Matthews or Tavares going forward. I think we'll have a better idea once Nylander eventually signs. So first of all, he's a key guy that's missing tonight. He's not going to be in. He's still got a contract dispute with the Leafs. He's holding out. That kind of makes me want to go. It makes the Tavares Marner combination a little bit more appealing, I think, and then that's where you're probably going to see the ownership there. But for tonight, I don't know. It'll be some kind of mix. They probably won't line match the Tavares and Matthews line. It'll probably just be Kadri against the Gallagher line, I would think, and then the other 2 lines just play as is. But I don't think there's really anything they have to worry about on the Habs. So I wonder how hard they're going to match tonight, if at all.
Yeah, that's kind of my take here. I was wondering if you could maybe shed some light on it, but I think we see Kadri against Danault, Gallagher, and is it Tatar?
Yeah, that would be my guess. And
And then after that, it's like Tavares against whoever, the Drouin line or the Domi line. It doesn't really matter from there.
They should eat up either of those second and third lines, I would think.
Yeah, we're gonna see a ton of shots on Toronto's side, I think, really early. So, I'm not saying I want to play Carey Price, but he's someone I'm going to have exposure to with Montreal stacks, because even if he allows 3 goals or something, he could see 40-plus shots here. Like, they could easily get caved, and if he saves the day, he's going to end up with a double-digit performance on DraftKings, and that's huge on a 4-game slate. So do you have any interest on the Leafs side of this, or the Canadiens side of this?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of interest in that top line there, that Gallagher, Danault, Tatar line. They gelled really well in the preseason. I know it's only preseason, but at least over a few games, they had some ridiculous possession numbers, and they had a great performance against the Leafs. They played each other 3 times, so they looked really good against the Leafs as far as generating volume and that. Gallagher is one of the best in the league as far as individual shot attempts and individual high-danger scoring chances. So he's a guy I regularly like to target, and he's pretty cheap. He's only $5,400 on DraftKings, so he's a guy I like a lot. And I think he's even cash-worthy if you don't go with someone like Freddie Andersen as your goalie. Maybe you want to go Martin Jones or one of the cheap goalies if you want to pay down. But yeah, I like Gallagher a lot in both formats, and I like the idea of pairing with Tatar since they play together on the power play as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love Gallagher in this spot. I mean, it's going to be a high-paced game. There's going to be shots
Yeah.
both ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be surprised if both these teams don't get to at least 28, 30 plus shots here. And Gallagher, he's an individual Corsi darling is kind of what I call him. He just shoots so much, constantly jamming at the puck on the power play. Just a really good guy for cash, for tournaments though too. Like he's someone who can easily has 2-goal upside. And then, I mean, are you punting with any of these guys kind of lower down the lineup, like a Lehkonen or a Joel Armia or anyone like that?
I have a bit of interest in Kotkaniemi and Niemi, the rookie there, just because he's mid-priced as a center.
Yeah.
So I will have some of him. I'm not going to be, forming my lineups around him, but he offers some pretty good salary relief, and he goes well in a lot of these game stacks. We don't know what we're going to get from him. This would be his first actual NHL game. He did pretty well in the preseason though, and he's playing with Drouin, so that's a good boost for him. So, I'll probably have some of him, but he wouldn't be a priority for me.
Okay.
So if you're playing a limited number of lineups, I probably wouldn't be playing him. But if you're going to MME a little bit, then yeah, I'll definitely have some of him for sure.
Yeah, he's someone that pops. He's going to pop on optimizers, whether you're a Fantasy Cruncher or somewhere else, just because minimum salary, top power play, pretty tough to beat there as far as value goes. So an optimizer is certainly going to find him very often in there.
There's a few other min price guys tonight that we'll get to in the later games that I find even more appealing. There's a guy in the Ducks we'll talk about later who's much more interesting to me. But there's about 3 or 4 really decent min priced options tonight. So if you need to get the savings.
Yeah, for sure. So on the Toronto side, if you had to choose, I know you don't, but where would you be going, like factoring in ownership? Like how do you decide between the Matthews and the Tavares line? I know it's not a decision that everyone has to make. You have the option to make multiple lineups, but like are you power play stacking Toronto? There's just going to be so much ownership here.
Yeah, so if I'm doing something, it's going to probably be a power play stack. And, honestly, if you had to go, if you're going to take one of the 3 lines as a full forward stack, it would probably be that Tavares-Marner one. I'm all about the correlation, so I like that Tavares and Marner play together at even strength and the power play. So that'd be most important to me.
Yeah, and adding in like a Morgan Riley or something like that. Obviously, power play quarterback for the top unit. It's kind of difficult to stack the Toronto power play. Like if you're 5-man stacking it and you want literally everyone from the top unit, you're using up all 3 of your center spots. So
yeah,
that's pretty difficult to overcome. Like I don't know. It's gonna.
So I probably won't. I probably wouldn't go all 3 centers. I don't think. I would probably. So that is what makes me probably it's gonna make me end up with a lot more Marner than any of the other 3. I'll probably stick with like a 4-man stack or something like that, but I'm not likely to use up all 3 of my center spots on one power play. So most of my lineups will probably contain 2 of the 3, one or 2 of the 3.
Yeah,
I would think if I'm going to go Leafs.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I was thinking. Probably going to leave off one of the 3 just because I want a center. I don't want all my centers being used up in just one game when you've got a Bo Horvat, you've got Monahan, Couture, Getzlav, all these guys. There's a bunch of guys that are usable that you're really putting all your eggs in one basket there. Bergeron,
exactly. Especially all with all these guys having high ownership as well too. So
for sure. New to NHL DFS, do you want to just go over like who do you think are cash viable in this game? I don't play a ton of cash. I don't know if you play a ton of cash, but
I don't play a ton. I'm trying to get into it a little bit more this year, but I do follow the cash mindset a little bit as far as lineups there. I think you could really use any of the 3 centers on the Leafs in cash. I would slightly prefer Matthews to Tavares since I think Marner's probably going to be shooting more. He's probably more of the shooter on that line, and I think Matthews is a heavier shooter himself, and he comes at a $400 discount on draft. So I slightly prefer Matthews and Cash. I think Kadri's viable there too.
Yeah. And then on the other side,
Riley's a
Gallagher.
bit. Yeah, Gallagher as well. I think Petrie's cash viable as well on defense, being on the top power play unit. The Leafs are terrible against defensemen. Just can't cover the point at all. And he's pretty cheap, and he sees a lot of usage when Shea Weber's out. So it would be him and Gallagher from the Habs. Maybe you could punt to Kotkaniemi, but I don't think I would go there in cash. And then Leafs side it would be Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Kadri, and Freddie Anderson.
All right, perfect. Let's move on to the next game. We have Boston at the defending champion Washington Capitals in DC. Tuukka Rask going up against Braden Holtby. 2.65 implied total for Boston, 2.85 for the Capitals. You think people are going to be going to the defending champs here? I know Ovechkin's going to be owned, of course, just because he's Ovechkin and he always gets ownership. And it's a 4-game slate. There's a lot of value. Do you think he's going to come in over-owned in GPPs? That's kind of how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I expect him to be popular. In something like that $5 contest, you'll see a lot of casual hockey fans going there, just because he's, they won the Stanley Cup. He's the most popular guy. He always carries ownership. So, and there's enough cheap guys on the slate that I think you can get Ovechkin. So I think he'll be popular.
Yeah, for sure. Their matchup, so just looking at kind of thinking about how Washington will match their lines. Backstrom against Bergeron. Do you see that being a hard match?
I do. I think they would like to get Ovechkin away from Bergeron more than anything. So I think you probably see Backstrom, Oshie, and Vrana against the Bergeron line, and certainly you'll see Niskanen and Orlov against Bergeron.
Okay. Awesome. And then we'll see, so we'll see Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Connolly. That line, what's that?
Likely against the Krejci line, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, and that Krejci line, if I remember correctly, they had really good metrics. I know 2 out of the 3 did when they were together. I can't remember if that was with Rick Nash or if it was this trio together.
Yeah, Krejci and DeBrusk together are pretty solid, and they haven't played too much with Heinen. I think I only found like a 22-minute sample size, so... but Heinen's definitely a responsible player, so he's not too bad defensively.
All right, yeah. So not like a pushover matchup either way. So I think that Ovechkin comes in over-owned here. We don't have ownership projections for NHL. It's really tough to try to figure out how people are stacking and such, but I would expect him to be one of the highest owned players in the game on the slate just because he's at home, big name. And defending champs, whatever. He's going to be shooting a lot, so I think individually he's a fine play. But I'm kind of off of this stack as a whole. I don't really love it. Connolly's not on the power play that I see. And then Kuznetsov's not a big shooter himself. It's mostly just going to go through Ovechkin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think so. I agree with that. I might do power play stacks with them. I think that's about it.
Yep. That's kind of what I like. Boston's just such a tough team as far as a metric standpoint. They just don't allow a lot of scoring chances, not really any high danger chances,
especially at 5-on-5. They don't really give up much at all on 5-on-5.
Boston went like 30 some games or something ridiculous without giving up an even strength goal last year.
And when they did, it's because their defenseman fell down in front of the net.
So this is Boston won. Talking about them, they're one of the top lines in all of the NHL. This is the line that I wrote up. I absolutely love them in this spot. I'm not really that worried about anyone going up against them. I don't think there's a line maybe outside of 3M that can handle them at 5-on-5. They're just so much firepower. Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak, we're talking about insane metrics. I mean, what are you doing with them tonight? Do you see them going somewhat under-owned?
Yeah, that's the one thing. I don't know exactly where the ownership's going to be on them. I imagine Toronto and San Jose will be the more popular teams, and then you'll probably see Washington after that, and then Boston somewhere in there. So, yeah, they'll be somewhat. I think you'll see them in around the 20% or so, like high teens maybe, which is low for them on the 4-game slate. Yeah, maybe something like high teens as far as the stack goes.
Yeah, one line. I mean, both Boston lines are popping for me. If you go on Osmo.com, you can look at my projections on the site. If you're a premium member, and that line, the second line as well as the first, is popping. So my model really, really likes Boston tonight. So
yeah,
you like that second line for some
That's
value?
the best line. The top line, the Bergeron line, is the best line in hockey, I think.
Okay.
As far as metrics go. So yeah, I'm not scared of them in any matchup. So it's a great idea to target them when they're not going to be that popular. They're the best. They have the best metrics of the two lines, but the second line actually has the better matchup, I think. Because that Ovechkin Kuznetsov line gives up a decent amount of scoring chances and shot attempts. And then also on the back end, Kempny is out, and Carlson's playing with Juice there. And I know that the Caps had pretty bad advanced stats last year as far as expected goals against and stuff. And they really turned it around when Kempny came in and played with Carlson. That really helped them. So now he's out. And I think that top line with Ovechkin and Kuznetsov is pretty vulnerable defensively. They'll trade chances. They'll get their own. They'll trade chances. So both these lines are in play for me. I think that Krejci line's pretty low owned one with some potential. I don't love. I'd like it a little bit better offensively if they had Donato over Heinen, but that's just small details there. But DeBrusk is a guy that I expect to do really well this year, and he's someone that I'm going to be looking to play a little bit more in DFS.
For sure, yeah, I'm right there with you. So, top 6 for Boston. I'm going to be over the field on them. I can tell already.
I think the Bergeron line is a line that's going to be under-owned in these low stakes, high entry, like high field, like large field tournaments. And I know they're a very popular line of the higher stakes crowd, just given their metrics. So once you move up in stakes, I can see their ownership coming up a little bit more.
Yeah, just because everyone, at the higher stakes knows how dominant of a line this is. I mean, you prefer them at home just because you prefer mostly everyone at home, but
I think they're good anywhere, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Just so dominant, so fun to watch too. If you're watching hockey tonight as well as playing, this would be one that I would want to watch.
Absolutely. The one concern that I have with that line is that Bergeron is coming off of off-season groin surgery, and he missed all of preseason with back spasms. So that I want to see how he looks there. I mean, there's a bit of concern, but he's also he takes pretty good care of himself outside of that. So I think he's ready to go. He sounds like he's ready to go. He's been practicing the last week or so pretty heavily. He just has sat out the preseason games. So there could be a bit of rust. I expect him to be good to go, but I wouldn't also be shocked if he had a bit of a slow start to the year. But otherwise, I think it's a great line.
Yeah, completely agree. Definitely could be some rust there. Who is your preferred option on the blue line for both teams? You got Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Chara, not on the power play, so I'm probably not looking his way too often.
No, probably not.
Grzelcyk, is he listed on the top power play? Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, so he is. He's been practicing there. I checked with the beat. I saw some of the beat reporters there. So he is on the top power play unit, but third even strength line. I think that he is someone. I see a lot of people talking about wanting to use him in cash because of the price, but I'm not sure if I would go there. I think he's a better GPP option than cash, in my eyes, just because I don't think he has a terrific floor. And so.
Right. I agree. And again, I don't play much cash, so I'll defer to you on that. But your line of thinking does make sense. And then on Washington side, you said you were power play stacking. So I'm assuming the preferred option with that would be John Carlson. Yeah,
for sure. I'd most likely end up with 3-man stacks with Washington. It would be something like Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Carlson, something along those lines, I think.
Yeah, that was That was one that I went to a ton in the playoffs. I remember just like
Yeah,
locked them
yeah.
in the whole run, just rode them to profit.
Kuznetsov was a monster.
Yeah, he was
So good.
something. But anyways, Niskanen's a guy I like to play. He was someone that during the second half of the season was shooting a ton, and he's down at 3,600 top pairing. The problem is he's probably going to see most time against the Boston one line, so that's
Yeah.
why kind of soured on both Niskanen and Orlov. I think they're going to be in their own zone quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that.
All right, let's go to the late games. We've got Calgary and Vancouver. Mike Smith going up against Jacob Markstrom. 2.95 implied total for Calgary, 2.55 for Vancouver. All right, so we've got the three Bs. Are they back together? Berchi, Horvat, and Besser.
Yeah,
I
it
know they
looks
were in
that way.
practice yesterday. Go
I
ahead.
know there was a few question marks with the Vancouver lineup, but it's mostly on the depth lines.
Okay.
Yeah, just because like Virtanen was dealing with a back injury or something. And
Yeah.
So it's yeah, just the smaller pieces. I mean, I think the highlight of Vancouver is that top line there. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a line I loved to play last year. Not the greatest metrics I was looking at. I mean, I expected to see better when I was just kind of going over
Yeah.
each line. Does
Yeah,
that
they're a bit
concern you at
puzzling.
all?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing with them last year. It was a bit puzzling. They had so much success. They had a ton of upside, but they didn't really have the kind of metrics that we normally look for in a line. So they were, maybe batting a little bit above their heads there, but yeah, I don't know. They have so much talent. I mean, this Besser kid is amazing.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
really good, and Horvat's really coming to his own too. So
Besser's incredible.
they're just really talented group of guys.
Yeah. And they're at home, so if they choose to, they can avoid the vaunted 3M line. So the three
Yeah.
Bs can avoid the 3M line. And that's exactly what you'd want to see if you're looking to play Vancouver's top line.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to be, man, I don't even know how they're going to do this. Is it going to be Sutter versus the Monahan line? They used Sutter as shutdown last year quite a bit.
Yeah, they did. That would be my guess, but I couldn't. It was hard to find consistency last year because they had so many injuries, and they've had so many changes this year as well. With the Sedins leaving and all that, and then they're bringing in a couple rookies, so it's hard to predict from a matchup standpoint. So it's not something I'm going to focus on too much, but. I know that Calgary was one of the more penalized teams last year, so I think them playing together on the power play is a big plus.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go next. So I love that top line. Just if you're three-man stacking, you can add in Edler. If you're looking to get that four-man or just full PP stack it. As you said, Calgary was I believe, top three most penalized team in the NHL in the regular season last year. I wouldn't expect a ton to change here, especially on the road. So I really love that top line for Vancouver. It's going to be somewhat popular, but maybe not the biggest names for the casual player. So I'm not super worried about their ownership, despite this being a pretty good spot for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. This game is tough to predict ownership. I wonder if people are going to be more on the Canucks side or more on the Flame side.
I
somewhat
would
interesting.
think Flames. I mean, if you just think about like near 3 total, that's pretty solid. They're on the road,
Yeah.
and Vancouver's not a great team, but the one thing they did last year at home was they slowed down the pace really well for the most part, and they just they don't play a very fun style of hockey. I mean, you saw it a couple games. I remember like a Rangers game maybe, and it was like 6-5, and they really opened it up. But you don't really see that a lot in Vancouver, so I'm kind of lukewarm at best on Calgary, and I'm more on the Vancouver side, especially with that power play. What about you?
I do like the power play. I was watching a couple clips from practice, and to see this new kid, Elias Pettersson, this guy is talented. He's the second line center there. He's mixing in on the power play. And to just see some of his cross-ice saucer passes to Brock Besser on the power play practice was pretty impressive. This kid is a human highlight reel.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, highly touted prospect, playing in between Goldobin and Louis Eriksson. Is that what you have as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on. I'm gonna have to confirm the Erickson thing. I thought I saw something else, but
Let me see.
there's someone saying you might have been out. But yeah, I don't love that even strength. I don't love him as an even strength line. It would be, I think if I'm using Pettersson, it would be something with Horvat, Besser, Berchi, or Edler on the power play there.
Yeah, agreed. That's what I would prefer too. I'm not crazy about Goldobin or Erickson if he's on that line. No. So it's really just about the top line for Vancouver.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much.
What about Calgary's side? Lost Dougie Hamilton due to trade over the summer. One of my favorite guys to play in NHL DFS. That opens the door for Gio, Mark Giordano. And then you've got this very solid 1-2 punch with Gaudreau, Monahan, and then Lindholm, obviously their other winger. Do you are you really high on any of these lines? Do you like James Neal as a one-off? What's your feel on this Calgary side?
Well, I caught you right up there on the line stacking, and I like what you said about the Calgary second line there. They're the most known commodity, right? That we've had at least a couple of years worth of solid, reliable stats on them to know that they are a dominant line. And they didn't have as much success last season, but their possession numbers were the exact same as the year before. And one thing I noticed is that their shooting percentage was way below their average as the line. The previous year, they were somewhere up around 10% shooting percentage, and they were a lot more successful that year. And then the previous season, they were down at around 4% shooting percentage. So that's kind of explains why the results weren't there. So I think they're kind of a candidate to bounce back this year. And we know they'll get the opportunities. They'll definitely be in the opponent, the Vancouver end. So I do like them a lot as a kind of a cheaper, lower-owned stack.
Yep, that's my favorite play on the Calgary side. So glad you're right there with me. The only issue I have with them is there's really no correlation with those three on the power play because you got Kachuk on the top unit, then Backlund on the second, and then Frolik just sometimes gets power play time, sometimes doesn't. It looks like he's not listed there right now. So it's just going to be tough. And then obviously you want...
Yeah, that is tricky for sure.
Yeah, so you want Gio as your power play quarterback more than TJ Brody, at least I would. So I love Kachuk. He's coming up in a ton of my lineups, even with Monahan and Gaudreau. So
he would be my favorite cash play of their forwards, I think.
Yep, just another one of those guys that shoots it a ton, constantly around the net and just wreaking havoc. So I think we agree that Gio is our preferred defenseman, followed by is it Brody, Hannafin, Hamonic for you?
I'd probably mix and match the other guys. I think. I think I'd probably mix and match them. Probably it looks like Brody's getting at least second power play time.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
But I think that Hannafin and Hamonic are totally fine.
Okay.
Even this Valimaki kid had a really good preseason, and he's min priced. If you needed to punt on defense, I don't have high expectations for the first NHL game, first regular season game, but if you had to punt on defense, I like him.
Yeah, he's actually someone that popped a bunch just because I didn't have a projection for him. So Fantasy Cruncher had him projected higher than I would have, and he was popping a bunch. So
I don't necessarily agree with that one that they have, but he's someone that you can use.
Yep. All right, I think we're good on that game. And Corsi, I saw your comment in the chat. This is the Taylor Hall jersey, the GOAT, just the best player in the NHL. No, he's not the best player, but one of my favorites. All right, let's go to the last game, and then we'll get out of here. Anaheim and San Jose. John Gibson going up against Martin Jones. 2.4 total for Anaheim, 3.1 for San Jose. I'm all over the Sharks in this game. Vegas is right there with me. 173 favorites for San Jose right now. Andre Kasha is out for this game, I believe we saw.
Yeah, he's got a concussion, so he's out for a bit.
So that makes a difference for me. Ducks obviously dealt with a bunch of injuries last year, and they're starting right back on that same pace this year. So kind of
so many. They're decimated.
Oh, yeah, no Kessler either. Not that. Yeah. I mean, that's probably better if Kessler was playing based on what he did last year. Like his line was a disaster. But yeah, you said you had a $2,500 player. I think I know who it is on Anaheim. If you just want to
Yeah,
talk about that.
yeah. This kid Maxime Comtois. He's second line there with Adam Henrique and Jakob Silverberg. And so yeah, he's 2,500. He had a really good preseason playing with those two. And so I think there's some upside here. That line will get the best matchup against San Jose. Like you, I am on the Shark side here, but if I'm gonna play anyone on the Ducks, it would be like that second line is really appealing to me. Henrique and Silverberg had some pretty good metrics together last year in the preseason as well.
Yep, that's exactly where I'm at as well. So super cheap as a full stack. Silverberg, kind of an underrated player in DFS, I think. Like he goes in these stretches where he's taking 15 shots, 16 shots per 60 minutes. And you kind of want to catch him on those, obviously start of the season, but he's a guy, when there were a bunch of injuries last year early, he's a guy who was playing pretty much every night just because he was shooting so much, like amongst the highest in the league because they just didn't have anyone else. And the roster looks pretty thin right now as far as forwards go. So I really like that second line for Anaheim if I'm going to an Anaheim line. Not crazy about Getzlaf, Raquel, and Troy Terry.
Well, I think the biggest thing in this game is looking at the defenseman matchups. You get Vlasic and Erik Karlsson will be the shutdown pair. Like I don't really want to play against them.
Oh God.
Brent Burns is pretty bad defensively with Joakim Ryan, so I think you definitely want to target second lines against San Jose and not first lines.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that until now. So that's probably going to be a duo you don't want to mess with for the entirety of the year as long as that stays together.
Yeah.
Vlasic was already a stud shutdown defenseman, and now you add one of the best in the NHL, and you get them paired together. So that'll be fun for Getzlaf and Raquel. So it just gets me off of them even farther.
Yeah, and it's a shame because they're reasonably priced too. Getzlaf's pretty cheap there.
Not cheap enough for me at least. I don't know. I mean, if they end up in a couple of my lineups, I'm not going to take them out or anything, but this is not a preferred stack for me at all. Anaheim won. Sharks side. So we've got Timo going with Thornton and Joe Pavelski. And then you've got another really solid line with Hurdle, Couture, and Kevin LeBanc. Yep. I think we do have some past data on the second line. I'm not sure about the top one.
No, we do on both actually, and they're both equally good from possession standpoint. At least their Corsi numbers there are pretty good. But both lines, the expected goals against, so they have really good possession metrics. Like they don't give up a lot of shot attempts, but when they do, they tend to be higher quality ones. So they trade scoring chances, but they dominate in the shot attempts department. Both lines.
That's interesting.
But it depends when the sample came from, but it is a large enough sample. It's over 200 minutes.
With a Thornton, Timo, Pavelski, or both?
Yeah, let me just try to pull up the specifics there. But
I don't have much of a lean. I mean, these two are both reasonably priced. Both they're actually both really great values, I think, especially with an over 3 goal total here. I guess the only guy that's maybe going to get somewhat lost in the shuffle is Evander Kane. That's down on the third line. I don't know really anything about Antti Suomela.
I read a little bit about him. I don't know personally much about him. Like I haven't seen much of his game, but he came over from the Finnish Elite League, and he was his team's leading scorer there. So the guy can put the puck in the net, and he scored some goals in the preseason. So
that was the thing I did see is the goals in the preseason. So kind of perked my interest just a little bit, and I don't think this line is going to be owned really at all. And I don't mind playing Donskoy. Would like to see him on a power play unit, but if you need another super cheap line, if those top two don't do it for you, like if you're looking to pair Boston 1 with someone, this is a line that does fit in really nicely. You can get in Evander Kane, who is one of my favorite one-offs on the slate, maybe my favorite one-off on the entire slate. That's a line that I will be looking to. I'm just going to be jamming in San Jose. I think they are probably my favorite team on the night, even though my favorite line is probably Boston 1, followed by maybe Vancouver 1 or something like that. But
Yeah.
I love all three of these lines as filler stacks.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're all three are in play. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, which one you're gonna use the most,
exactly.
but I think they're all in play.
Yeah.
Sure.
Speaking of hard to pinpoint, we've got the dilemma of picking between Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson, both priced $200 apart. Burns at $7,100, Karlsson at $6,900. I mean, this is going to be annoying all year. I was talking to some friends yesterday. Like, who
and you can't play both.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could.
It would be difficult. I assume that once we get further along into the year and all the other teams' prices come up, then yeah, it's going to be pretty hard.
Right. It's just, God, it's so difficult. There's such awesome DFS players.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you just go with Karlsson because he is the. Actually, no, I wouldn't go with Karlsson now that I'm thinking of it, because he's going to be focused on shutting down Getzlaf, Raquel. And that is a good duo. Raquel and Getzlaf has been, especially possession-wise. So maybe my lean is Brent Burns. He's $200 more expensive, but it's a very...
well, I think Burns is certainly the better cash play, given his shot volume in that. Karlsson's more of a setup guy, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, if you're going for cash, the answer is Burns, I think. But either are fine in GPPs.
Yeah,
I think.
both on the top power play as well. I wasn't expecting to see that, actually. I don't know about you, but I thought they would maybe split
I thought they
up.
might have split them, but it's also hard not to give either of them all that power play time too, right? So
yeah, that's true. Man, that is such a stacked unit. I don't know. Thornton kind of ruins it for me, but Couture and Pavelski, that's with Burns and Karlsson. I don't know if there's a better unit. I mean, there probably is, but that's a pretty awesome one. Anything else on this game? Anything else on the slate that you'd like to mention? I'm gonna look through chat and see if.
So we talked about being big on San Jose, but you had mentioned Carey Price would be your kind of punt goalie to see a lot of shots. I think John Gibson would be mine. He's the kind of guy that he regularly sees 50 shots and can put up a massive performance. So he's a guy I'm willing to take some chances on in GPPs.
Yep. I mean, one of the most talented goalies in the NHL, right? So, he is a sizable underdog, but not as big of an underdog as Price. Maybe a little bit less of a risk. But, man, I think he's just going to get peppered. So, I mean, that's kind of what you want, right? On a short slate, you're looking to take those kind of chances.
Yeah, it would be from that perspective. He will get peppered. We know the shot volume is going to be there, and that's it. It's like, will he save them all? Will he stand on his head? That's about it, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're looking for. So, looking to correlate my goalies as much as possible tonight. I probably won't end up with much Gibson unless I end up with like a you say it's Comtois?
Yeah, Comtois, I would say. Yeah, it sounds French. So, Maxime Comtois, yeah. I'm pretty sure he played for the Canadian junior team last year.
Okay.
And then Sam Steele there.
So that would be how I would end up with a Gibson, is with a filler stack like that if I'm going with an expensive Boston one, or I have Ovechkin in there, want to fit in, well, I guess I wouldn't want to fit in Karlsson, but like a Gio or someone expensive like that.
Yep.
Any thoughts on Lipsick for 2,700 on DK?
Is he playing? I know he was filling in for some stuff because of the Bertanen injury.
Yeah, I don't have him being even a lock to play tonight, so I would say probably avoid him. Yeah. He's going to be...
And even if he does, he's not going to be on that top power play unit. He's not going to be on the top six, I don't think. So I think you can fade him tonight. There's just given the other cheap options tonight, I think you can find another option.
For sure. Gordon, Kennedy, Elias Pettersson, your projection too low, Jake? Yeah, probably a little bit. He's going to get bumped up a little bit, and I'll update the projections right after the show, actually. So on Osmo.com, we have the Stacks article, Spotlight Stacks article written by myself. We have the Power Plays article written by Bots, one of the best minds in DFS. Those are both live on the site, free for now. What else do we have? We have the projections I mentioned, Osmo's rankings, as well, player rankings, as well as his stack rankings. And then, we've got this show as well. let's see. I'm probably forgetting stuff that we have as far as NHL content, but tons of
Well,
stuff.
the rankings, and
Yep.
I don't know if you touched on that. Yeah.
Yep, the rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more question, and then we'll get out of here. Do you stack and cash in NHL?
I don't. I personally don't try to. If there's multiple good players on the same team or line or whatever, then I'm totally fine with that. And then, of course, that changes the smaller the slate is. I think it's more acceptable the smaller the slate is.
Yeah. And then EMAC asked the question, so got to answer EMAC.
Oh.
How did the D1, D2, D3 lines have shift changes? Is it mostly the D1 and D2 pairings on non-power play situations? I think that kind of depends by team. Some teams will ride their top 4 defensemen more than others. I don't know, Steve, do you have a better answer to that?
I think they will rotate. The third pairing sees the least amount of time, but they still do get ice time, especially in the regular season. I think once you start getting the playoffs, the first and second, the top 4 sees way more ice time. But regular season, they see decent even strength time. Usually the third pair doesn't see power play time.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Steve, thanks for joining me, making this a lot easier, more fun, and letting me pick your brain. You got any last words for the people?
Oh, of course, buddy. It's a great show. Glad I get to talk with you, talk things over, see different approaches and stuff like that. It's really important. Yeah, no, just if you guys are playing in that massive any large field GPP tournaments tonight, don't be afraid to be different. You don't have to use any conventional stacking or something. Just find a way to be unique. That's really the key. You want to stand out there.
Yeah, take advantage of the uncertainty, especially early in the season.
Yeah.
All right, guys, check out osmo.com. Come join us tomorrow. We have a full Thursday slate, so it will be a lot of fun, hopefully with some extra money in our pockets as well.